Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Laura-Lynn Thompson. It's awesome to be with you. I love to start my shows by reading from my father's Bible. He underlined it from stem to stern, and this is what he underlined. So I literally just flipped it open to Jeremiah chapter 2, and this is what my dad has underlined. And it's funny. He has a little green. Isn't that funny? This probably has my dad's fingerprints on it, so I'll just leave it there. I miss him a lot. It's just so interesting to go into his Bible to see what he found important to underline. So I flipped it open, Jeremiah 2:11. Hath a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? Question mark. These are small g's. But my people have changed their glory for that which does not profit. Be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be ye very desolate, saith the Lord. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns, that can hold no water. My dad wrote beside this, he said, sin does not work. So he must have been having some thoughts about that. You know, the prophet Jeremiah, it says about his life that he lived a tortured life because he was constantly running around trying to let Israel know that they needed to stop sinning, stop doing stuff that was wrong before God. And yet there were times when Israel would do what was right, and then there were times when they failed miserably. And so we're going to talk about an interesting thing that is cyber security and issues of security, especially in relation to the Palestinian and Israeli conflict. Today, we're joined by Cyrus Nooriala, CEO of Cywest Communications, a cybersecurity company. He's an expert in cybersecurity and can speak to possible strategies and tactics that we could expect to see in the declared war in the Middle East. And so this is going to be quite interesting. Welcome to the show, Cyrus. Thank you for being with us today. And your name, it's a very biblical name, actually. We kind of talked before the show. Cyrus is a well-known, he was a king, I believe, in Isaiah 45. In fact, Donald Trump has been called like a Cyrus, as so named by Netanyahu. So that's interesting. So this is actually your name from birth.
Yeah, that's actually my name from birth. Although I don't think I measure up to the original.
Well, probably very few of us do, but Cyrus was, he didn't really know God. And it said that God kind of took somebody that was, I guess, had certain qualities and brought them in as a king. And they were very, good with Israel, brought God back and brought protection to Israel. So very interesting that you'd be named that in any case. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're of Iranian descent, I believe, but do you live in the United States now, or where do you call home?
Yeah, I live in the United States. My parents immigrated. My father immigrated from Iran back in 1964. My mother immigrated from Greece back in, I want to say, 1957. She actually immigrated twice. She came once when she was 13, went back to Greece, and then came back again, which is why I get those years a little mixed up. But they met in Los Angeles, and long story short, here I am.
Wow. So we are very in a very difficult time in history. I guess we're the closest to World War III, some saying, than we've ever been. We've got the Russia conflict heating up recently, Biden giving $200 million more to the Ukraine. We've got this growing battle in the Middle East that is, very upsetting. We have the October 7th attacks and outfall from that. As a cyber expert who deals in all of these things, you have a few opinions basically on all of this, and maybe as it relates to humanity and how important security is. I want to ask you one thing at the start of this, because we've been really covering all of the people that are coming in the southern border. What do you think about that, which is going on at the southern border of your country right now?
I think it's part of the agenda that was declared quite some time ago, which is the replacement theory. I think that in a lot of ways, our government and also the global governments, which are pretty much in cahoots with each other, are finding it more and more difficult to deal with a population, especially like that of the United States, in which we are so used to individual freedoms, we're used to our individual rights, our Second Amendment, and so forth. And we're becoming a lot more knowledgeable than we used to be in this internet age, at least a good portion of us. And so they're bringing in a citizenry, or a group of migrants, as they like to call them, uh, that are uneducated for the most part, do not see the larger picture like we do. They're not very technologically savvy. And they're kind of repeating the bringing in of the Europeans through Ellis Island, and bringing in the new crop of masses that they want to control.
Mm-hmm. The recent reports of thousands and thousands of young Chinese able-bodied men without women, is that a bit of a concern to you?
Absolutely. I think there are multiple sleeper cells around the country. I think we're fighting a different kind of war than what we're used to. We're fighting a psychological war, and we're fighting a war that is not overt, in that we're not seeing planes crossing the skies and dropping bombs, but yet we are seeing hundreds of food processing plants going up in smoke. We're seeing attacks on our grid system. We're seeing attacks, on infrastructure. And this movement of peoples is just an attempt to erase the borders, get us to that one world government that most of us are reading about.
Hmm. Yeah, are you talking like Agenda 2030 or Agenda 2050, since they're a bit behind now? It seems that that maybe all of the information that folks like yourself are putting out is not helpful in the agenda barreling forward, which is a good thing. Do you think that through information that you're able to share and others, that we're able to be wiser, and therefore we can protect ourselves better from globalist agendas to harm us?
Yeah, and I think also our military personnel, they're not apt to attack their own citizenry. That's just not part of the makeup of the United States from its inception. And so bringing in these sleeper cells and potentially even UN troops would bring individuals into a position like a military personnel that have no affinity for the American people. And we're already seeing this in the United States. The Democrats are talking about giving the illegals citizenship as long as they serve in the U.S. military.
Hmm. Tell me about your background. So, how did you get into cybersecurity, and how did that become? I don't know if it's your career at this point or an interest to you.
Well, I started a company called Cywest Communications about 26 years ago. I've been in the telecom industry since 1987, and we were largely working in the telecommunications area specifically. And with telecommunications, there were always security issues, monitoring issues, and things of that nature. So our company started developing monitoring systems that carriers would utilize in order to make sure that they could be proactive in terms of some of their connections. And we could tell them when cards were going to fail and things of that nature. Communications then morphed into cloud infrastructures. And so we provide cloud networks for our clients, as well as the communications to those cloud networks. So now we're not only managing the communications, but we're managing the data, the storage of that data, the transport of that data, and all of those carry with it a security component that we need to be cognizant of.
Do you think that we're in danger in North America of having no privacy at all with the way that they're trying to set everything up?
I think we're already there. I think that ship has sailed a long time ago. There are a lot of things you can try to do to keep your privacy. However, they've convinced us, and they've also priced certain communications products out of the market to get us all on this thing we call the internet, which is just a public network that is connecting everybody. And I know that people feel secure in the fact that they're using protocols to encrypt information as it's going back and forth. But the truth is, I'm not sure about the Canadian government, but at least in the United States, it's illegal for us to transmit an encryption protocol that the government doesn't have a backdoor to. So the idea that you are encrypting your information and it's going across these major carrier networks, which is then being stored because outfits like the NSA, they have appliances at the edges of these networks in which everything is being replicated to an NSA data center facility and stored away and archived. And even the information that's encrypted can be opened up by the government. And given the breach in government information to countries like China, I doubt that our government is the only one with the backdoor to those encryption protocols. If you want to learn more about that, you can look up a person by the name of Zimmerman, who was a computer science professor over at MIT. In 1991, he published a program, an encryption protocol called PGP, or Pretty Good Privacy. He was very quickly approached by the United States government and threatened with jail. So then he came out with version 2.0, which gave them the back door. 1.0 to this day has never been broken. So if you're one of the old computer guys like me back in the day, you may have a copy of PGP 1.0 and you may be able to encrypt your data and keep it completely private. The only caveat, though, is you can't transmit that encrypted data because, again, that's illegal to do across the internet.
So, so that is illegal. And this is very technical. So I wouldn't even have the first idea about how to do that, right? So this only really applies to very high level engineering communication experts, I guess, that would have this knowledge, like perhaps yourself, knowing how to do that. But it's illegal, so you can't do it. But would they find it if you did it, or only if they were searching for it?
Yeah, they could find it. If they saw there was information that they could not decipher or break into, then they would know that that's an encryption protocol that is illegal. And, so if they can't get you technologically, which in a lot of cases they can't, because, there are private citizens like myself, and there are some private citizens who are, much smarter than the government, and they figure out ways to do things in order to protect their information. So if they can't get you technologically, they'll get you through the court system or through some legal means. And that just kind of hampers or hamstrings your ability to do certain things unless you're willing to take those chances.
So common folk like me are told that like WhatsApp and Signal are encrypted and that, no one can read them at the headquarters of WhatsApp or whoever's running Signal. Is that the case?
No. You should assume that your information is out in the open. And you have to realize as well that when you go on WhatsApp or you go on Signal, you're not just having a two-way conversation between your device and the recipient's device. You're actually hitting their servers, and then that information is going to the recipient's device. So everything you're typing, everything you're doing is going on either WhatsApp or Signal servers. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. We already know what Facebook is doing with people's information. And Signal was actually funded by In-Q-Tel, which is the funding mechanism for the CIA. So you can put two and two together.
Right, right. Okay, so I want to ask you a strange question just because it comes to my mind, but you know how we've got cameras on our phones? Do you think that people can access our cameras when we don't know it and can see us?
Yes, absolutely. That's well known. In fact, on my phone, I can even show you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this. I don't want to, but somebody makes a product. Can you see that little divot there?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I
Okay.
can. Yeah, when you put your hand on it
Well,
there.
that's a door that I can open for my camera.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my camera is always closed.
Wow. So where do we get that?
You can go on Amazon.
Okay.
You can get a
JT,
pack of 6 of
that's
them or
what I want
so.
for Christmas. Yeah.
So you can put that on there. There was a YouTube video of a couple of years ago showing on iPhone how, with a black light, how the iPhone is taking a snapshot every 5 minutes. And the NSA facility has enough storage capacity and processing power to watch everybody on video.
And are they able to hear us as well?
Yeah, the same as when you invoke Siri or you invoke any of these, Alexa, whatever. In fact, I can tell you, if you want to go to theverge.com, they had an article a few years ago, and this entrepreneurial couple they were having a conversation at home, and one of their employees called them up and said, "You need to unplug all of those Alexa devices in your house." And they said, "Well, why?" And he said, "I just heard your entire conversation that you had a half an hour ago." They said, "No, you didn't." They didn't believe him. He said, "You were just talking about replacing the floor with this type of tile in this room." And they said, "Oh my gosh, how did you hear that?" He said, "I received an email with a WAV file attached with your entire conversation on it." So the reporter went to Amazon and asked them about this, and Amazon admitted there was a bug where their contacts were emailed the entire conversation. But nobody addressed the elephant in the room, which is, why was the conversation recorded in the first place? Why was it archived on Amazon's servers in order to send it via an email? So these devices, they have convinced us to put bugging devices in our pockets, in our homes, and everything else around us.
I mean, we're literally giving them the eyes and ears to our entire life.
Yes.
And most of us have our phones beside our bed, so they're hearing all the private talk between you and your husband, whatever else is going on. And you've got these phones, you take them with you everywhere. They're basically monitoring everything. I mean, everyone, just share this right now. Just share this broadcast. Why we're kind of dumb then? So you're not dumb because you've got that little protector on your phone. And you know who else isn't dumb is Zuckerberg. I saw on some video he was doing that his phone had one of those protective things. And I thought, well, so, okay. I've thought about this, how it can hear everything you're saying. And I wonder, well, if I'm playing a video loudly on my phone, or if I play my Bible app actually fairly often, will that mask or stop them from hearing, do you think?
Not necessarily. The same way that you might be listening to music in your car, and you invoke either Alexa or Siri in order to answer a text, but you still have the music playing in the background. It does pick up your voice. There is voice recognition on top of the recording that's occurring there.
Wow. And what do you think in our world? Do you think that governments, like in Canada, you wonder, can the Prime Minister spy on one particular person? Is this easily accessible? Like, would the RCMP or the police state be able to access an American's private conversations and video if they suspect, I don't know, something, or if they don't suspect anything?
Yeah, in fact, Edward Snowden is the one that disclosed all of this at first. That
Mm.
he was showing how they were tracking terrorists and their activities, and they were actually watching them through their cameras on their laptops.
Oh,
So, but of course, at that time, most people are in favor of this because, hey, we're
they're
going after and
terrorists.
we're getting,
Yeah.
that's right, we're getting the terrorists. But they never imagined that this technology would be turned on them, and that's what essentially the Patriot Act did in the United States. It allowed the government to start surveilling the U.S. citizenry, and then on top of that, the psychological warfare that is going on during the Obama administration. It used to be illegal to propagandize the American population. And after Obama signed his NDAA, that was no longer illegal. And that's why we're seeing the psychological warfare going on the citizenry right now.
Do you think this is the kind of stuff that could be used to blackmail somebody? Like if there's a high level leader and his phone shows everybody that he's getting prostitutes, he's having these conversations that are very illicit, he's buying drugs, whatever, and they've got access to that kind of information. Could that be used then in the wrong hands, obviously, um, to blackmail someone?
Absolutely. Hunter Biden.
Right. Now, Hunter Biden,
And
yeah, now they kind of got a hold of his laptop, right? So he kind of handed it over. And it's a very good point. But let's say Hunter hadn't done that. Would they, well, I mean, they're getting his emails, I guess, and they're finding tracking of checks and stuff that have come to the Biden family.
yeah, that's what's so ridiculous about the story with Hillary Clinton and the whole bleach bit, story that came out back when she was Secretary of State, and how they were hammering their cell phones. That just shows their ignorance, because they were sitting there using Gmail accounts and transmitting information over non-secure channels. And the truth is, even with Hunter Biden, they didn't need his laptop. All the
Mm.
information that he was transmitting across the public internet was already archived. So all they had to do was go into the NSA facility and pull up all of that information anyway. It wasn't a matter of needing to get to that
Mm.
laptop. And that's what is so ludicrous about the stories coming out of the FBI, so on and so forth. Getting the 50 officials to sign the letter that about the Russian hoax story and everything else, and that the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't real. They already knew it was real. They didn't need the laptop.
Wow. Okay, so what do? You're a cybersecurity guy, and you have the intel on what they're capable of doing. So, okay, let me ask you this about one of those little what do you call those little pouches, JT? We have a couple of them. Yeah, a Faraday case. Do you vouch for Faraday cases?
Yeah, if they're the right type and what you're trying to do. The biggest thing you want to do there is to protect your electronics during an EMP attack,
Mm.
perhaps, so they don't, surge and, burn out your chips. A lot of people don't think about their vehicles. Most automobiles now run with chips, and if those chips don't function, you can't start your car. So if you have an EMP attack, you're not going to start your car if it's a newer model, and you probably have to go back to 2000 or so if you wanted to find a car that wasn't running on a chip. And there are ways to protect your car or your vehicle as well. They can be a little bit expensive though, but those are things that you would connect to your battery, and then you would protect it from any kind of a surge that an EMP type of dirty bomb would set off.
Well, what about the future of your carbon footprint, and that you'll have no, like if you've driven too far, they might be able to just shut your car off and not allow you to go. Or you've already used up your gas mileage, or the amount you're allotted.
Yeah, all that information's already on your phone. If you've ever used the Find My app on an iPhone, for example, you can watch anybody within your group live, right? And you can watch them driving down the road, and it's very accurate. And all of
Mm.
that information is, again, it's archived. It's not just in real time and then it disappears. That's what a lot of people don't think about when it comes to the surveillance, is that it's archived. We do some surveillance ourselves on our network, but we're doing it on behalf of our customers, not to do something nefarious with our customers. So if a customer came to us and said, we're having a problem with bandwidth consumption in the office, we don't know what's going on, we can easily go into our archived logged data and say, oh, well, you've got 3 employees who are Netflixing movies in the middle of the day, and here are their IP addresses, and here's their identity,
Right.
so we can do things like that. And then we can go back, multiple years to find this out. We can say, well, what was the date that you were noticing a problem? And they'll give us the date, and we'll go right to the logs to that date. So it's not, a lot of people think about surveillance in terms of catching you at the time, but and you brought up a good question, which is when you become a person of interest, that's when they'll go to the archives and say, okay, what was Laura, what was Cyrus doing on such and such date at such and such time?
They were talking to each other and giving away the secrets. That's what they were
That's
doing.
right.
And I'm a little bit concerned as time in life goes on, that the social credit score is going to be affected when we're known to, I guess private conversations could be being recorded. You're driving down the highway, you're talking to your spouse about intimate details on your personal thoughts about what's going on in the world. And if that doesn't line up with, let's say, the Liberal Party or the Democrats, and they've got this intel, and it's suddenly free speech is not free anymore, and you're not allowed to believe certain things. They're making your country out to be a very scary place right now in how well, first of all, the double justice system, how they treat Trump and how they treat Biden. But people are, what's happened recently with these presidents of the universities, they treat everybody a bit different. Like, God forbid that you said that all Chinese people should be slaughtered, or you said all black people should be, that it's okay to slaughter those people. That would be treated differently than these MIT presidents who didn't seem to be able to kind of conclusively call October 7th a terrorist attack.
Right. And I mean, that's exactly right. And, this is why we have certain amendments in the U.S. Constitution, because, the colonists were facing the same type of tyranny from King George at the time. Our Fourth Amendments, I mean, all of these things came up out of the experience that they had. And, part of the reason why they were forcing citizens to house the soldiers was so that soldiers could spy on their conversations and their private thoughts they were having at home. So, but now we have to be conscious of the devices that we have on ourselves. When we're going to have certain conversations at home, we actually sometimes just take our phones and stick them in a drawer somewhere, and then we go have our conversation. Because we know that those devices are recording things, and we know it in the simplest of terms. You might be talking about rakes, for example, and suddenly you're seeing ads on the sides of the websites you visit about all the rakes that are on sale. So, if they can do that, then they can do that with anything that's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, you are exactly right. You could have like some issue going on, and all of a sudden they're advertising to you things that very personally you would want. I've seen it happen, even psychological, like counseling things. They'll just suddenly, they'll have it available to you. And this, I remember this on Facebook years ago going, how is it giving me such really personal ads that they are obviously knowing that this is something I've talked about. So So basically we should start getting used to, I mean, maybe we have to get rid of these things one day. We have to maybe decide how to have simpler lives. That might be more important. Easier said than done. Like, how do we function without our phones anymore? We get all our emails everywhere we go. We have texts. We need to talk to our families. We need to have communication. So maybe it's not possible to really get rid of it, although I know people that don't have phones at all. But when you look at this, it must be somewhat disconcerting to you, having such intimate knowledge of this field, that we've invited the enemy to our privacy into our hands every day. We're talking to it, looking at it. It's taking pictures of us, doing whatever, and this is our reality. This is very actually terrifying, I think. This conversation's taken a terrible turn. I mean, it's scary.
I have a tendency to bring people's moods down a little bit when we talk about these things.
Right.
But I can tell you, and my wife can vouch for me, I told her, she was then my girlfriend in 1992, when the internet was becoming much more pervasive. And I told her, I'm very concerned about the future. I did not imagine everything that's going on today back in 1992, but I understood that by us shrinking the world, that there was going to be more bad coming in than good going out. And I was always very concerned about that interconnectivity that we were going to have. And so all of those things, it's, familiarity breeds contempt, is maybe one way to say it, or distance makes the heart grow fonder. There were a lot of things people didn't know about the United States and the goings on internally. And there were a lot of things we didn't know about outside of the United States and what was going on over there. And, in a lot of ways, it kind of protected us. But now all of these very nefarious ideas, nefarious attitudes, my parents came from countries where you greased palms in order to get things done. And that wasn't the way America operated. But now many of these attitudes that are foreign to most Americans have become so pervasive that they're just every day. You have to almost expect them. Wow.
What about people like Yuval Noah Harari, this very sick man who basically is a godless person who wants mankind to elevate to basically being like gods? They're saying this, and they want this transhumanism. You must be as well seeing that this is getting closer and closer to becoming our reality daily.
Yeah, I mean, there really is a demonic component to this. When you can talk about what we would say is rational in terms of the argument about, your opinion being, not in agreement with somebody like Yuval Harari. But when you really look at what he is saying about humanity, he walks this fine line between advocating for crimes against humanity and what he is saying philosophically. And he basically, if you look at these WEF meetings, which I'm sure you have, where he says that what do we need humans for? We'll just give them video games and drugs and, because they're useless to us. And this is where the artificial intelligence on the technology side is coming in for these people as well. They think that they can feed us whatever they need to through the artificial intelligence and make the artificial intelligence look as if it's giving us information from a neutral standpoint. But the reality is they're going to make sure that it gives the narrative that they want to give.
Can you see the day where you kind of said a few minutes ago, which kind of triggered my mind to this, but you said where they seem to be able to read your thoughts. I mean, already they're hearing us, so they have insight into what we're thinking and dealing with. But what about that day when, like Elon Musk and planting these chips and things like that he's talking about? I usually like Elon, and then I don't know if he's bad or good, if he's propelling us towards a crazy world, or he's giving us X where we can say anything that we want generally. and he's for free speech, and he's really coming against some of the big players, I think, that are harming us, like Facebook and Disney, Microsoft, whatever, that they're no longer going to be advertising on his platform because he's basically said, I don't care about your money. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to do what's right. So I kind of like that aspect of him. But then here's a guy who wants to put chips in everybody's head.
Yeah, and the other aspect of this is profiling. How many years have we been told that it's a racist thought to profile somebody? And all of this information gathering that they're doing on is nothing but profiling. So they're going to look at not only your comments, but the places you go, the places you frequent. Are you a regular churchgoer? Did you happen to be at the Capitol during January 6th? Were you in support of certain things? So all of this is to build a profile on you. And as far as the nanotechnology and having these chips implanted, there are a lot of people who have already volunteered for this because they think it's so cool technologically that they can stick something in their hand. And now I don't need to carry my phone with me because inside my hand on this chip is my passport, my digital currency, my health information. So I'm just going to go into the grocery store and let them scan my hand, and I'll walk out with my groceries. I don't even need a person there at the point of sale. So, they're convincing everybody to put these things into their body. And it's about convenience. And what did Benjamin Franklin say about security and convenience? If you want to give up your freedom in order to have a little security, he said you deserve neither. So, this is what we're doing. People, they like the convenience of what the technology does. And then sometimes they use a fear tactic too. You should have this passport so that we do know whether you're vaccinated. So you're not going to get COVID and die. All of this fear mongering. And then they make these devices necessities in order to function in society. I have a daughter at university. She has to have a Facebook account in order to function on campus. She doesn't have a choice. And then how many of us, like my father, he never goes on Facebook, yet his picture is all over Facebook because he knows people who know him and took a picture at a function and they posted it on Facebook, and now his face has already been mapped to his identity.
Right.
And all of these things, and this is the problem with the technology. It's becoming too pervasive.
Wow. And that was really freaky when Facebook started tagging my face in some friend's picture. They didn't even say it was me. It would just tag my face in their picture. So that's very alarming. So maybe it's already done. Some people have said, don't use those QR codes and stuff like that, that you can go to a restaurant, you can do the QR code and it pops up the thing. Or if you want to send someone your contact or put it on a big screen at an event, we've had these freedom. And I'm like, but GPS knows where you are all the time. So we're already being tracked and traced by it, but we don't want to use the convenience of it. And I said, I'm not certain that that's the hill to die on, that we don't use the QR code. However, so I'm betting that as you're looking forward in your personal life, you're making decisions every day about where your phone is for what you're dealing with. Even I'm guessing as a security expert, there's things you don't want anyone knowing, and even talking to a client that you would want to be protective of what even they're asking you potentially. So are you making those kinds of decisions to be protective of security for yourself?
I am, but you could make the argument that my even being on your show is a breach of that security. And I've been on other podcasts as well. And at some
Mm-hmm.
point, you have to make a decision. Am I going to leave this world better off for my kids and the future of humanity, or am I going to stick my neck out and do something about it? And that's why I talk about these things, and I try to alert people as much as I can. Personally, yeah, I make decisions all the time. In fact, some people mock me because I don't do certain things. They say, well, you're a tech guy. Shouldn't you have certain things in your house? And I say, well, actually, no. If you knew exactly what some of that technology was doing in your house, you wouldn't have it either, or what they plan to do
Wow.
with it in the future. For example, why should I have a smart thermostat in my house? All of my thermostats are dumb. I don't want the power company coming in and telling me how much I'm going to heat or cool my home. And that's what they're going to do with these smart type of devices. Or how many people
Wow.
have had their children with their baby cams, and they're using them over the internet. And so these are what they call IoT, or Internet of Things. They are infamous for being insecure devices. And now you've got some guy halfway around the world talking to your child in their crib through the baby
Oh,
cam, and also looking at them on that baby cam. So,
having private intel.
right. So you're bringing these things in, and if you don't understand, I'll give you a quick story. I don't want to suck up too much of the air,
That's
but
great.
just to drive the point home, my insurance broker happens to live 2 doors down from me, and he's a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And I decided to scan our neighborhood on the Wi-Fi, and just to see what was going on in the air around us. And I saw a Wi-Fi network out there that said "Go Packers," and I said, "Oh, gee, I wonder who that is," because there aren't that many Packers fans around in our neighborhood. And so I looked at it. I noticed the encryption algorithm that was being used. I noticed that it was weak. So we were talking out in the driveway, and I said, hey, I just need you to know that I saw your Wi-Fi network, and I think you really need to change your encryption protocol to a more secure one. He says, oh, I don't worry about that. Nothing's going to happen. So I went back home. I came back to him the next day in the driveway, and I handed him a yellow piece of paper. And he said, what is this? And I said, it's the password to your Wi-Fi network. And and I said, I just want you to know that I was on your network. I saw your HP printer. I saw your laptop. I said, I was in your cable modem. I was using your internet for a little while. I said, and then I got out. And he looked at me, and he didn't know whether to punch me or to thank me.
Right.
And I said, I'm just trying to make a point here. I said, and here's the scary part. Any 8-year-old or 13-year-old can go on YouTube and learn how to download the software to do this and watch the video of what commands to type. And they can do the same thing that I just did, even though they have no idea or education about what it is that they're actually doing. They don't need to know. As long as they know the steps, they can follow the directions, and they can just do it. So somebody can be sitting out parked on the curb outside your home, and they're inside your network because you're not using a safe encryption protocol. So not knowing the details about the things that we use, it's like your car. Most of us know how to drive a car, but how many of us know how it actually works? How does my pressing that gas pedal make the car go forward?
Right.
So,
No
and that's why
idea,
a lot of
actually.
people, yeah, and that's why a lot of people say, I need to find a trustworthy car mechanic, right?
Yeah. And you're the
You know,
trustworthy cyber security guy.
and that's what it is. You need to find people in your life that know this stuff, who aren't going to use it for ill, who have a conscience about them. In the IT field, there used to be sort of a Hippocratic oath. We all had an enormous amount of responsibility and an enormous amount of power in the companies that we worked for, because we had access to all of these servers and the corporate information and the emails and so forth, even going back to the mainframe days. And there are just certain things you didn't do because your conscience told you you shouldn't do this. You know, you're in IT. There was some integrity about being in that field. Well, that's all gone completely. You cannot trust anybody with your information.
Wow. So even having somebody come into, I mean, if you're a person of interest, and you need to have something fixed, you have to really know who you can trust to have uh, your your devices, your computer. Let me ask you this, Cyrus. This is a very alarming conversation for a lot of reasons. It's on the back of my mind, this questioning about how much do they really know? Because I got asked the other day, I have some app on my phone and it wanted access to my microphone, camera, and pictures. And it didn't need it. And I thought, but I have given access to a ton of apps because you want to send pictures, you want to, microphone, I talk text everything. Drives my husband crazy because he gives me a one question, I answer him with an entire paragraph in 3.5 seconds, right? So
Yeah.
drives him nuts. But this is alarming to me of who, because I speak about very volatile things every day and who could be monitoring. And I'm just small potatoes. What about the president of the United States? How would he stay safe from anyone? How would people that are really fighting for us on the right side, they could be being monitored, not really knowing, and they might not know enough to make sure that they are being careful. What is your advice then to all of us as we kind of close up? Because this has been fascinating, and I think everyone should share this interview, share it far and wide, and people will also want to know maybe how to get a hold of you or how to communicate with you, I think, after this. But what do you advise us to do? What should we make part of our regime? Like moving forward, JT, like our phones can never be in our bedroom just sitting there listening to everything that we talk about or whatever. Our phones can never just be like, you have to be cognizant of what your phone can see. If your phone's in the bathroom with you and you're having a shower, is my phone able to see everything going on? Like, this is not good. So what do you suggest that we need to be smarter about as general people and also people of interest? Because I have a lot of people that would maybe be being watched that do see the show.
I would say one of the key things is not to be dismissive of what is being said here. A lot of people have a tendency to, say, oh, well, it really can't be that bad. I just want to do what I want to do, so I'm going to go about my day. But beyond that, be conscious of the things that you're putting on your phone. Don't just put any app on your phone, particularly if you're on an Android phone. Don't forget, Android is owned by Google. Google's entire business model is based on the information it collects about you. So on a Google phone, we were talking about this with some Apple people about 5 years ago. Your Google phone has a keylogger on it. So everything you're typing on the keyboard is getting sent in plain text across the internet up to Google. And this is before, you go through an encrypted tunnel, putting maybe your banking information or your bank credentials and things like that. So this is before that happens. Your Windows PC, it has a keylogger on it as well. If you want to go and search, you can to find out how to turn off that keylogger on your Windows PC, but it's on by default. Limit the apps that you put on your cell phone, and be cognizant of certain companies like Facebook, like Google. These are companies who everybody in the technology business knows are surveilling you. Don't put the Messenger app on your phone on Facebook. I know maybe Facebook is a way that you communicate with a lot of people or through that messenger app, but tell them there's a new way they need to communicate with you. Don't put the WhatsApp on your phone. I don't have certain apps on my phone for a reason. I don't frequent social networks like Facebook. I do go on X and Twitter, but I never comment ever. I never say a word, no matter how compelled sometimes I feel like I would like to put my 2 cents in,
Right.
but I just don't do it because there's no reason to give them more information than they're already collecting on me. And you would be amazed that there is this impression, and it's partially true, that they know more about you than you know about yourself. I mean, any of us who have ever been in a relationship for any length of time will have our significant other come to us and say, it's really interesting when you do X, Y, and Z. And you look at them and you say, really, do I do that? And they say, yeah, all the time. Because we don't pay attention to every little nuance about ourselves. But this technology is paying attention to all those little nuances. And then just to drive this a little further, there's a whole industry out there called big data in technology. And companies like IBM are creating these huge, what they call data lakes. And they have other databases out there like the DMV database or the database that is tracking gun purchases and things like that. And these act as tributaries into these data lakes. And that's where artificial intelligence originated. It is the algorithm or the tool that is used to go through this massive amount of information and bring it up in real time when they need it. So all of this data, you think about every little nuance you do. If you have a smartwatch on your wrist, your heart rate, your sleeping patterns, your sleeping habits, your eating habits, if you have a fitness app on there where you're tracking your macros and your micros, all of that information you're giving away. So you just need to be conscious of these things, and you're not going to be able to protect yourself 100%. Anybody who can tell you that is lying to you. We're too dependent on these things, but you can definitely limit it as much as possible.
Wow.
And then, and just be a little bit more educated on these devices that you're plugging into the network. Anything that's going on the network, anything that has a connection and a chip is vulnerable. Learn about its vulnerabilities.
You're the scariest man I've talked to in a long time, but it's so good. And you're not scary. Your information, what you understand and what you're sharing with us, I think is just crucial. And people want to know how to get a hold of you. So where's the best, do you help people to be more secure if they are feeling the need for that?
Our company is really a B2B company, but I'm always happy to talk to people about things. If you want to go to our website, you can. It's cywest.com, cywest.com. And, there's a contact form on there like most websites have.
Yeah.
And if you have some questions, maybe, you might have some personal issues, but maybe you're also thinking about the company you work at and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, any conversation is good. I've always felt that the best way to be educated about something is to tutor people. I think the tutor gets more education than the one being, taught. So
yes.
That's why I'm very open to talk to people about anything that they're, any they're going through.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating, and I just thank you very much. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate actually also you being willing to kind of share this and perhaps be seen as somebody that maybe certain factions of our society wouldn't appreciate, that you're making this more well-known because we will protect ourselves better. So I appreciate it. Cyrus Nooriala, thank you very much. You are the CEO of Cywest Communications. Everybody, cywest.com, right? So thank you for this very, very fascinating interview that actually will probably change the way that I do a lot of things moving forward. So I appreciate it so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know what you are all feeling, but I feel, vulnerable. I mean, I'm a big mouth, right? So I'm constantly having conversations and telling everyone in the room. Oh, and guess what, JT? It's not just my and your phones, right? It's people who come over for a visit. Everything that everyone's talking about when you're having dinner together, right? You have a few friends over and you have a rousing talk about who knows what. And they're garnering information on you. Should it become protocol when you come into someone's home that your phone might be put into a box and covered, right? Yes, JT's, maybe we have to be smarter. Maybe even your home groups, your private. Is Cyrus, are you still there? Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, okay.
we just want to check with you on that too. Like, we have to be careful not just of our own phones, but everyone else's.
Yeah, in fact, it's not just your data points, but they correlate your data points to other people's data points. So let's say you ride the bus as a habit every day. They also know everybody else who has the same habit on the same bus and the same route. So let's say you become a person of interest and you decide to go underground, right? Well, guess what? They're going to go reach out to everybody else who normally sees you on the bus every day and say, do you know where this guy likes to hang out besides the bus? So
Oh my
it's the
word. So
correlation.
even, yeah, you might not even have your phone with you, but they will know how to get to the people that routinely might know where you are. So your whole
Right,
life is before them. It's mapped out if they want to
right.
track you.
And
Yeah.
and think about it. If you do want to go underground, think about all the things you have to think of that are habits,
Mm-hmm.
because it actually is a difficult exercise because they're habitual, you don't think about them. Now you have to consciously think about them
Right.
and ask yourself, well, wait a minute, what do I do every day? I get up at 6 routinely. I make this for breakfast. The light comes on. I turn on the light over here at this part of the house at this time of day. All of these little things. And so that's what does a predator do when he's hunting a prey? He doesn't attack the first time he sees the prey. He watches the prey for a few days before he attacks because he learns the habits and he knows right at the moment he wants to pounce, he knows exactly where that prey is going to be at that
Mm-hmm.
moment. And that's what these predators are doing with us.
One more question. What about televisions? What about smart TVs? Do you think we got a problem with that?
Oh, yeah. Edward Snowden actually pointed that out. He said the FBI has a setting on the cameras, which is called on off, which means, or off on, I'm sorry, which means the LED light is off, telling you that the camera has been started or is running, but it actually is running, but the LED is off. So yeah, they're watching you on the smart TVs also. All of these devices are the same. You got to think about your cell phone as a computer. I mean, think about this for a moment. The processor that is in your cell phone is more powerful than the mainframe systems from the 70s. And they're running operating systems that are running multiple applications at the same time because they're multi-threaded operating systems. So that was impossible back in the early days. Your desktop machine could only open one program at a time, if you remember that.
Right.
Now you can have multiple programs open all at the same time because the operating systems are multi-threaded and we have multiple cores on these processors. And so, that's what's really changed things. My dad was an engineer in the 70s and nothing about the technology has changed. He and I can have conversations and he's still current. The only thing that's changed is the processing power, the speed at which it can process all of those bits, the memory, how much memory it can actually hold, and the storage, how much storage we can now hold. So that's the only thing that's changed with the technology. Everything else is pretty much the same.
Wow. I'm sickened. Are you? I'm sickened. Me and my husband are now really sickened. Oh my goodness. This is really something. And it does really need to inform and change the way that we do things. Thinking about what's that? The Amish don't have this problem. You know what? We might have to get a few lessons from the Amish, how they live, and change our ways. Oh man. Okay. Bless you so much, Cyrus. Thank you. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I love this. I think it's good to know, but it's so terrifying. I mean, do you know who's going to be freaking out? Gary. Gary, senior producer Gary. He won't get a phone. Gary, you just got your new smart TV. Let that be a lesson to you, Gary. You can't escape. Oh, I love Gary. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is great. So my website is Laura-Lynn.tv. Thank you, everyone. If you appreciate the kind of shows and information that you get here, if you're kind enough to support us, it means the world to us because it's what keeps the lights on. We don't have a lot of favor with the government of Canada right now. We'll see how that goes in the future, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. All of the grants and funds and money for media people, it doesn't go to us because we tell the truth and we share that truth with you every single day, and we do our very, very best to bring you honest reporting with integrity. And because of that, JT and I make this our livelihood. And it is literally only funded by viewers. And I just thank you so much. If you're willing to just throw us a couple bucks at this end of the year 2023. Also, because we inform and bring about a biblical worldview, we are able to offer you an income tax receipt because we spread the gospel every single show. We let you know that Jesus is the only thing that's going to get us through. And I appreciate so much what Cyrus just said a few minutes ago about there's really a satanic element to all of this. Yuval Noah Harari wanting to destroy us, wanting to being perfectly fine with us becoming transhumans and basically humankind becoming obsolete. I mean, he is a gay man. I don't think he has children, so I don't think he cares about his grandchildren, but we do care. We care about the future. I guess, I don't know if there would be a way in which machines could just run the world and just go and go and go. I mean, I don't know how much they can evolve, if human beings are not programming them and all of that. But I guess they can have ways of thinking for themselves. And that's what they're training these machines to do, which is becoming oh so scary. And that's why our guest Cyrus was worried about it a long time ago when he said to his girlfriend that the internet is a very scary thing. Well, we're here to bring you the truth. We don't want you to worry. I want you to know that you can get my book. If you go to the online store on my website, which is Laura-Lynn.tv, you can get my book, Relentless Redemption. That is my true story, coming through an awful lot of pain and failure and finding out that this was the way. We've also got some really super great t-shirts and stuff on there. Buy your hubby a nice shirt. Buy your girlfriend, your daughter, a nice t-shirt. Go check it out. We would love it. Thank you mostly for supporting us. We're able to offer you an income tax receipt. As I said, you can also donate anonymously. So if you don't want to be tracked and traced, you can do that. You can donate anonymously. We will not be able to tell that you have donated to us. We'd like to be able to say thank you, but some of you become monthly partners. Some of you become, you give a little gift once in a while or periodically. All of it is fine. We appreciate it. We also have snail mail, and that's box 48184, New Westminster, British Columbia, V3M0A7. And thank you for sending us notes and your love, your kindness. Thank you for supporting us. We really appreciate it. We do encourage you also to make sure that with your money, you are taking good care. All of this, tracking and tracing that goes on with our monetary system. Some people saying you use cash as much as you can, but we also want you to protect yourself from when cash is devalued. And we offer an option, gold and silver. We deal with a gentleman named Steve Merrill, and we want to run his presentation at the EOC Era of Champions, JT. Let's try to get Steve's presentation up as soon as possible, because he had so much to share about how to protect ourselves from all that is globalist and everything that they are doing. Hebrews 5 verses, let me go to 11. We have much to say about this, but it is hard to make it clear to you because you no longer try to understand. In fact, though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God's word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. Anyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is not acquainted with the teaching about righteousness. But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. I'm going to underline this because I want my kids to know how important it is one day that we become mature, not just taking the milk. You know what the milk is? It's greasy grace. It's believing that you can kind of have one foot in sin and one foot trying to do the right thing, and that will work. What Paul is calling everyone to is to be someone who walks in God's righteousness, to do your very, very best to do what is right and just before God, to not be immature in getting angry when you're disciplined by God. Have you ever been disciplined by God, and instead of accepting that discipline, you're just so mad at him because he's disciplining you? Because God loves you, right? So he is going to, whoever he loves, he disciplines. And it is really important that when God sort of calls you up short on something and he shows you, you face a certain consequence because you made decisions that were wrong. You didn't consult God, or you went into sin, or you have a little tiny sin you just don't deal with and you just keep letting it get bigger and bigger and bigger. And God always whispers and he says, hey, you shouldn't do that. Then he speaks a little bit louder and he says, hey, listen, I'm trying to tell you, this is going to bring sorrow to your world. And then you know what happens? God he expresses it like a father does when he's trying to bring discipline to a child that he loves. It can get a little louder. And sometimes in that discipline, you see, that's actually the meat of the word. He's asking you to be cognizant of your choices in life, of where you spend your time, of how you treat other people. God is asking you to make godly decisions in every area of your life. How you spend your money. He wants you to be mature. And for so many, it's just sort of, they just want the milk. They just want to be, laissez-faire about things that are important to God. I think if anything shows how serious God considers our actions, it's what's going on in the world right now, as we're seeing the possibility that humankind can literally destroy itself, can literally bring on World War III, can not care about humanity. God asks us to be sincere consumers of the meat of the word so that we would be mature and found to be walking in righteousness before him. I hope you find that place. Let's all try. God bless. It's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.